Welcome to Odisha State Open University. My name is Subrasuramsu Pujahari, Assistant Professor in English. Today we will have a video lecture, Unit 1 of your paper UEGC 101. And as you know, the title of the paper is Introduction to Literary Studies. And the title of Unit 1 is What is Literature? So basically in this unit, we will be talking about the meaning, definition and basic functions of literature and what makes literary studies distinct and individual from the rest of the disciplines. So what is literature? So let us first make ourselves aware of some of the basic definitions as made by eminent literary investigators. Basically, literature comprises a body of written works that includes fiction, poetry, drama, and non-fiction. So basically, the entire literary discourse can be well classified based on its articulation through different genres. And the genres can be fiction, poetry, drama, and non-fiction. According to W.H. Hudson, he defines literature as a record of what men have thought, felt, and experienced, emphasizing its connection to human life and emotions. So basically, literature is a repository. It is a combination and it is a storage of what we have felt, what we have experienced, what we have thought as human beings. So basically, literature addresses the humanness and the basic existence of human being. Similarly, Matthew Arnold, the 19th century critic, defines literature as the best that has been thought and said in the world. So now you could well imagine what a vivid and what a profound definition Arnold has made on literature, that it is the best that has been thought and said in the world. So there cannot be a greater criteria to define literature the way Arnold has defined it. Similarly, in the 20th century literary theorist Terry Eagleton, and according to his views, literature is not a fixed category, but as writing valued for its aesthetic and ideological significance within a particular culture. So basically, the previous definitions of Hudson and Arnold, they generalize the functions of literature. Whenever they are defining the ontology of literature, they are making general statements. But according to Terry Eagleton, literary writings and literature is culture and time bound. Because whenever we are reading a piece of poem or whenever we are reading a novel, then it is not something isolated, it is not something cut off, and it is not something alienated from its cultural territory and from its geographical territory. So there must have been the reference to the native culture and native geography in the writings. So basically, literature functions both as an artistic medium and as a means of exploring and understanding the human experience. Through the skillful and imaginative use of language, literature reflects personal and societal realities, including struggles, achievements, and emotions. So whatever, in all, right from the emergence of human species, and right from the day that human beings started to become civilized, literature is very much integral, a part of us. And it is because of the literary writings and it is because of the literary writers that we are aware of our own existence and we are aware of our own being. So, unlike other forms of writing, literature possesses the unique ability to evoke deep emotional responses and provoke critical reflection. Because what happens in life, we often take things as granted. Things happen to us and we just tend to forget it. But it is because of the efforts made by the literary writers and it is because of the projection of realities that is delineated in literary writings that actually We encounter things in a very unfamiliar manner for the first time. The same thing, if it would have been happened to us without any literary experience, then we would have taken it for granted. But when we are dealing with the same experiences as said by someone else, then our perception is often reinterpreted. And the way we actually look at the things, the way we perceive the thing, it is somehow molded and reformed. And what else literature does? It encourages readers to reimagine and reinterpret the world by engaging with ideas and experiences through narrative, imagery, and dialogue. So these are the basic functions of literature, the basic definitions of literature. Then let us discuss nature and aesthetic function of literature. What is the basic nature and what is the aesthetic function that literature performs? Literature explores the complexities of life by reflecting personal experiences as well as broader social struggles, achievements, and emotions. So, the function of literature is twofold. It is both personal as well as collective. Emphasize the two words. It is personal as well as collective. Because often whenever a poet is writing a poem, whenever a poet is composing a poem, we have references, we have the scope, we have that leverage to fathom into his own subjective selfhood. That what as a person he is thinking, what as a person he is feeling, what as a person he is encountering. So we are actually encountered with his own personal subjectivity, as well as what as a social species, because man is a part of society. So whatever is happening amidst us, whatever is happening around us, what sort of events, what sort of phenomena, what sort of ideologies are actually happening there around us in the society, literature also addresses to it. Literature also responds to it. So it is twofold. It is personal as well as collective. So literature stimulates critical and imaginative thinking by encouraging readers to engage with ideas beyond surface meaning. Because what happens, we cannot take things for granted on the surface level only. Whenever we are reading a piece of novel, or whenever we are reading a piece of poem, or whenever we are reading drama, for instance, we cannot come to the conclusion based on the surface meaning. And I would like to emphasize two words here. One is connotative and the other one is denotative. Denotative means the literal meaning of the word. What does the word literally mean in our day-to-day usage and in our daily affair? But what is the connotative meaning? The connotative means the symbolic meaning, the hidden meaning, the concealed meaning. So literature often articulates things in a very connotative manner, not necessarily denotative way. It has the power to transform the reader's perception of reality by presenting familiar experiences in new and thought-provoking ways. Exactly what I was telling a few moments earlier, that it makes the familiar unfamiliar, it makes the natural unnatural, and it makes the common the uncommon. So if the same thing we are encountering maybe 100 of times in a day, but when the same thing is projected in a piece of writing, then our perception of looking at the same thing is altered, it is changed. Writers employ imagery to create vivid sensory experiences and enhance emotional impact. It stirs, it evokes the emotional intelligence of us, within us. Because, what happens in life, our misery, our pain, our sufferings, our despair is great for us. And we keeps on actually boasting about it. We keeps on, flaring about it. But whenever we are reading about another life, whenever we are understanding life through the lives of other characters, other personal, other societies, other culture, then our ability of emotionally responsive, it is enhanced. We become emotionally more sensible. We become emotionally more involved, and our ability of empathy, our ability of compassion, our ability of kindness, it is further catapulted, it is further increased, it is further fueled up by literary writings only. So authors creatively manipulate language to achieve precision, beauty, and expressive depth. Attention to rhythm, sound, form, and structure enables writers to produce works of lasting artistic and aesthetic value. So obviously, language plays a very pivotal role in literary writings, because literature doesn't always articulate because literature never articulates in the language of physics or chemistry or botany. The language that literature uses, it is very much human. The language that we use in our day-to-day affair and in our day-to-day life. So definitely, it becomes very easier for us to relate with what the literary writer wants us to say. So in our other class, actually, we have discussed the definition of literature as made by different literary theorists and critics across time, and what is the function, basic function and nature of literature, and what makes literature distinct. So now let us discuss about literature as a reflection of social issues. This is something very crucial, because obviously literature is not something outside of the society. It is very much an integral and an inevitable part of the society. So one of the most significant ways literature interacts with society is through its depiction of social issues. Authors often use literary works to comment on the conditions of their time, addressing themes such as inequality, oppression, class conflict, and human rights. Because what happens, children, whenever someone is talking about literature, whenever someone is talking about poetry or novel, that as if in a very mistaken way, we often take it as an item of luxury and comfort. But no, this is not how literature is. Literature is, it could foster social mobilization. It could change social norms. It could change the wrongs and the mishaps and the anomalies and the chaos that is very much there in society. So literature is that kind of a yardstick on which society in large could be properly evaluated. Literary text reflects societal tensions and historical realities while encouraging readers to critically examine social problems. It enhances and it fosters our ethical and critical intelligence. The way a politician will look at the problem, the way a bureaucrat will look at the problem is never the same way a man of literature and a serious reader of literature will look at it. Because the policymakers have their own yardsticks, they have their own parameters to, frame rules, to implement rules, and to abide by the rules and the, policies. But as students of literature, a proper reader of literature, his cognitive faculty is very much distinct, and his ways of interpretation is very much different, because definitely he will evaluate or he will interrogate the same subject, the same rules based on its ethical and moral dimensions. That what good that particular rule is serving in the society and at what cost. And whether it is short-lived, whether it is ephemeral, or it has some actually long-lasting and long-term benefits. So this is how a student of literature and a writer of literature, a writer who composes poetry or novels or short stories, fiction, non-fictions, and a serious reader who is basically an interrogator of it, their perceptions are different from that of other practitioners. So for instance, Charles Dickens, the 19th century Victorian novelist, in his A Tale of Two Cities, the title of his novel is A Tale of Two Cities, it explores social upheaval during the French Revolution, highlighting disparities between the ruling class and the common people. Because it was not that he is actually adding some kind of love story in the novel. Obviously, it is an imaginative work, but in that imaginative work, the central focus is on the French Revolution that occurred in the 18th century. So what was the pros, what was the cons, and how greatly it affected the lives of the society, it affected the lives of common people. The novel is all about that. Equally, Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin exposed brutal realities of slavery and played a vital role in raising awareness for the abolitionist movement. Similarly, another novel, that is Uncle Tom's Cabin, this actually put emphasis on the wrongs of slavery and slavery as a heinous social practice. So this is how actually literary text addresses to societal and cultural problems. Literature serves as a powerful medium for expressing and preserving collective identity within a society. Through narratives, poetry, and drama, authors transmit cultural values, beliefs, and traditions to future generations, because the values and the ideas and the norms and the rules that we are following at the moment, it is handed over to us because of literary text, because of literary writers. And if they would not have been there, then the existence of these rules and principles must have been questioned. Obviously, the Rama as a character, and in fact, Rama as a lord is unimaginable without the existence of a Valmiki. It is Valmiki who created the Rama, and the Rama that even we are worshipping in so many temples, in thousands of temples, it is a creation of the consciousness of Valmiki. And Sri Krishna, for instance, the existence of Sri Krishna would not have been possible if Vyasadeva would not have written the Mahabharata. So, definitely, literature has a tremendous and a phenomenal role in shaping society and culture. Texts such as Homer's The Iliad and the Odyssey and the Epic of the Old reflect the ideals, fears, and aspirations of ancient communities. So it talks about our ancient communities, it talks about our ancient culture, it talks about our ancient society, and it actually provides us the very fundamental identity as human beings. In this way, literature acts as a cultural archive that connects the past with the present, so that the future could be well anticipated. Literature also frequently challenges established norms and calls for social and political change. Writers have used literature as a tool to question authority, expose injustice, and amplify marginalized voices. So, literature has given voice to the voiceless, given identity to the persons who are having substandard identities, to culture which is somehow been thwarted, which has somehow been forfeited by the canon, by the larger societal practices. So it is because of the literature identity is formed, it is because of the literature new existence could be thought of. For instance, George Orwell's 1984 critiques authoritarian control and the erosion of individual freedom, because George Orwell again is a 20th century English novelist. So in his magnum opus 1984, he talks about the authoritarian control, that how the entire society, how any form of government is being controlled by only a handful of people. And we literally, as common citizens, we don't know the way we are being controlled by our own elected representatives. So this is the complexities, and this complexities has been very vividly delineated by George Orwell in his novel 1984. So through this engagement, literature promotes tolerance, compassion, and critical awareness, and ultimately literature and society are deeply interconnected, as literature both reflects societal realities and envisions more just and equitable futures. So let us now discuss literature as a social critique, some of the concepts and critical views. Literature functions as a powerful tool of social critique by examining and questioning social structures, power relations, and dominant ideologies. For instance, for Terry Eagleton, literature is inseparable from ideology and often reflects the ways in which people make sense of their social conditions. Earlier also in our earlier class, also I mentioned Terry Eagleton, and Terry Eagleton was basically a Marxist theorist. And whenever we are talking about Marxism, the immediate concept that hits us is the class struggle, the distinction between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, the haves and the have-nots. So literature is basically conditioned by some kind of a specific and a precise ideology. And whenever any literary production has been made, some kind of an ideology is has controlled it, and it is motivated and it is operated very much by a precise and an influenced ideology. So this is how Terry Eagleton has interpreted literature. Similarly, Raymond Williams argues that literature both shapes and is shaped by society, serving as a response to lived social experiences. So through narrative symbolism and characterization, literary texts expose injustice, inequality, and moral contradictions within society. As a critical medium, literature encourages readers to interrogate accepted norms and reconsider social reality. Because, okay, Rousseau has made a very great statement that man is born free, but everyone he is in chain. So, when Rousseau has made this statement, okay, we claim ourselves to be free citizens, liberated individuals, and independent citizens, but this is not how things always are. Okay, because we elect our representatives, we elect our political governance, but when has there been a single time that a politician just come to you and just ask you, okay, what kind of law will be benefited, what kind of policies you want to be implemented? No, this is not how things are. Governance doesn't operate in that manner. So it is because of literature only we could question authority and we could question power also at the same time. For instance, Antonio Gramsci's actually concept of cultural hegemony explains how literature can resist dominant ideologies and promote counter narratives. Because we are always being controlled by the narratives that has been just fed to us, that this is what it is and this is what that is. So, Antonio Gramsci again was a 20th century theorist who claims that literature, it is because of the existence of literature, dominant ideologies could be questioned and counter narratives could be formed. By fostering empathy and critical consciousness, literature motivates readers to reflect on social responsibility and freedom. Ultimately, literature remains a vital cultural force that critiques injustice, challenges authority, and imagines more equitable social futures. So, this is what it is, and thank you all.